The newest game from id Software, the fathers of the first-person shooter genre, is a game meant to show off their new id Tech 5 engine. That game is Rage, and while Rage does a very good job at showing off the capabilities of id Tech 5, it fails to do much more than that. The basic gist of the story is set roughly 124 years into the future. In 2029, asteroid 99942 Apophis collides with the Earth, causing a massive global extinction event. Shortly before this happened, the governments of the world started the Eden Project, in which they cryogenically froze individuals whom they felt had the best chances at rebuilding civilization in underground facilities called Arks. You are one of these Ark survivors who is awoken into a strange and dangerous land. A friendly settler saves you from a bandit clan, and the game then begins. What's interesting about the story, at least at the beginning, is in the way in which this post-apocalyptic world comes about. Not from a nuclear war or other man-made disaster, but a natural occurrence. A natural occurrence that could happen, although it is currently thought to be unlikely by scientists, on one of Apophis's two near-Earth trajectories. The first is in 2029 and again in 2036. In 2029 it will pass within the orbit of the Moon and geosynchronous communication satellites. The 2036 near-Earth trajectory is unknown because of the uncertainty of the effects of coming so close to the Earth's gravitational well will affect its orbit around the Sun. However, current research dictates the chances of an actual impact event are around 1 in 250,000. It should be noted that this is a better chance than winning the Mega Millions or the Powerball, however. And there ends your science lesson of the day.
Signing off. May we live to see another day.
After the story begins, however, it quickly devolves into a go here, do this quest system to try and move the plot along, where each little job you do for the main story helps bring you to the final moments of the game. The unfortunate thing, though, is that there's very little in the way of plot development along the course of the game. After each main quest, you are granted with a little exposition that has more to do with the local area than the overarching plot of Rage. It literally isn't until the last few missions that you get any sort of feeling that there is an overall agenda to the plot, and even then the resolution to the plot is wholly unsatisfying.
Not for you. I hear there's something special about you Ark people.
Early on, a lot is mentioned about a group known as the Authority, a totalitarian regime that has control of all the really good technology in this bleak future. But the actual encounters with the Authority don't come until pretty late in the game. By the time you start encountering them, you find that the main point of the plot is to take them on. Unfortunately, nothing up until this point has led you to this revelation, except that people who know you are an Ark survivor telling you to stay away from the Authority. Up to then, all the missions are about helping the settlements against the bandit clans. While the story is moved along with decent voice acting, it does suffer from a bare-bones script. Very few characters will stand out based on what they have to say to you. Some of them will be more memorable for their appearances, however.
Let's get going.
The gameplay in Rage is a mix of first-person shooter, driving combat, racing, and RPG elements, though none of them feel entirely fleshed out. The shooting mechanics are adequate, but the aiming seems a little off or slow in comparison to the game's frame rate and enemy movement speed, at least on the console versions. The guns, for the most part, don't feel especially powerful either, as even unarmored enemies can take point-blank shotgun hits and not go down. The ability to use upgraded ammo in each weapon can make the weapons feel better, though. The racing and car combat aspect is a little more fleshed out. Vehicles control well and can be upgraded by getting racing certificates. The different weapons available for the vehicles also seem to work pretty well. Unfortunately, each zone you can drive in isn't all that large and only takes around a minute or so to get from one end to the other in the non-race aspect of the game. Races are set in closed-off areas of the open world. The RPG elements are the least fleshed out. These elements basically amount to each objective being given to you in the form of a quest. That's it. There's no leveling system in Rage, so all the RPG element really adds is more of a quest log for you as you play. I suppose the engineering part of the game could be likened to part of the RPG elements. As you progress through the game, you can get different engineering schematics to build items from different parts that can be collected in the game. It's a shame then that I didn't find much of a use for most of the schematics. Now, when looking at the id Tech Engine 5 used in Rage, this is where the game really stands out. The engine itself is nothing short of spectacular on almost every front. For starters, Rage seems locked at 60 frames per second on the consoles, which is no small feat. I don't think I noticed any slowdown in my playthrough. The overall look of Rage is also fantastic. The moment you step out of the Ark and see the landscape, you'll be taken aback at how beautiful it looks. There can be some muddy textures here and there, and texture pop-in when loading new areas is pretty bad, but this is more of a limitation of the RAM and the consoles than any fault of the engine itself. And when it comes to character models and animations, the id Tech 5 engine really shows its potential. Every character model is wonderfully detailed and the enemy animations are superb. Everything from enemies jumping around the environments to body-specific reactions to being hit looks so fluid it's nearly hyper-real. Rage also includes a get-out-of-death-free ability with a defibrillator aspect of the nanotrites in your character's body. When you die, a minigame will start. The better you do with the minigame, the more health you will get back. This isn't a constant thing, however, as the defib needs time to recharge after use, though it can be upgraded to allow for 2 uses. One of the biggest drawbacks to Rage, though, is its checkpoint system, or rather a lack thereof. Rage only autosaves at certain points, mostly when loading a new zone. Other than that, if you don't want to have to redo a whole zone if you do die, it is best to save a lot. This isn't as big a deal on the PC version with its one-button quick save ability, but on the consoles it leads to a lot of going to the menus. It's also a shame that Rage's multiplayer is so limited. There is a cooperative first-person shooter mode, but the only competitive multiplayer involves the racing and car combat mechanics. I didn't find this satisfying at all. Rage has a lot of potential, but its potential really isn't lived up to. The id Tech Engine 5 is the best part about the whole game, but just a great engine isn't going to bring the whole game up when the other aspects hold it back.